Hey, welcome to Honey to You, and welcome to what we will officially call season two. Listen, I know it has been a minute and a lot has shifted really within me, around me, and honestly at the world at large. But what has not changed is the purpose behind this space. Honestly, the purpose of Honey to You has always been about self return, about honesty and becoming. And as we step into this next season, I'm truly excited to share some of the ways that we're expanding how this podcast and the vision that is behind it is evolving. So let's now get into today's episode. This one is for the women who have hidden their life, their voice, or their truth. And that's not because they're weak, but because at times it hasn't felt safe to be seen. Today, we're talking about what it means to be visible, not just on the outside, but emotionally, spiritually, and why that kind of visibility can feel terrifying and tender at the same time. Okay, personally, now recently I stepped way outside of my comfort zone and I published a book. It's called Helped by Darkness, Embraced by Light. And this book was not just something I wrote, it was honestly kind of something I revealed. I held it close, quietly, almost secretly until the very last moment because sharing it made me feel completely exposed. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't want the judgment. And I didn't want the judgment that sometimes comes with creating something deeply personal. I didn't want the questions. And it's not because the book is entirely about me, because it's not, but because the process of writing it was intimate. It was sacred. In my family, listen, I'll be real. I feel like I'm known as the one somebody who's I'm known as the one with the big ideas. I'm always dreaming something up. Honey to You was one of those ideas. It's still becoming what it's meant to be, but sometimes, and it could be my own projection, I worry that people see me as someone with just another idea. So the book in itself, with the book, I waited and I didn't share it until it was real, until it was whole, fully actualized, because when you put something out into the world that's born from your inner world, from your thoughts, from your feelings, from your wounds, your healing, that is different. It's not just creative work, it is personal truth. And so during the process, I found myself at the edge of a question. Is it safe to be seen? And self publishing this book took me to the brink of vulnerability. Hitting the publish button, now that was a terrifying, terrifying progress or process. Would people assume every word was about me? Would they believe it was all about my marriage? It was all about my life, about my heartbreak? Eventually, I had to accept that people will believe what they choose to believe. Some will love it, and some may not. And I had to be okay with that because sometimes hiding feels safer than living in truth. And if you have ever gone through something big, a divorce, a reinvention of self, a reckoning, I know, and I fully know this, I know you know exactly what I mean. There is a reason that we shrink in these moments, a reason that we stay quiet. And most of it is learned behavior. We are taught, sometimes directly, sometimes through silence, that being visible can mean being criticized, misunderstood, or left behind. And honestly, I don't know too many people who don't carry something around being judged or misunderstood. Most of us have this deep urge to correct the narrative when someone gets us wrong, right? We want to explain ourselves. We want to be seen accurately. But that fear, the fear of being judged or labeled or misread, that inherently shapes us and it dictates how we live. It dictates what we share. It dictates what we create and even what we believe we're allowed to dream. It builds a box around us and it becomes a box that keeps us from living fully, boldly, authentically. We start to worry so much about what people believe about us, especially when we don't fit neatly into their expectations, that we keep ourselves caged, right? And this honestly became the heartbeat of my book, Helped by Darkness, Embraced by Light. It is a reflection of so many intimate conversations with myself, with the women that I love, with the experiences that shaped me. It's a container of all of that energy, every tear, every reckoning, every sacred moment. What poured out became a love letter to women. And so I ask you gently, I'm going to ask this, but directly, is it safe to be seen? And what happens when we choose to be seen anyway? And I think that's where the beauty lives. That's where life begins to bloom and where we meet the truest, softest, most radiant version of ourselves. What I've come to understand is this: there is a difference between standing in the spotlight and allowing yourself to be seen. They are two different things. Authentic visibility is different than performance. Being seen means being witnessed, not just in your beauty or success, but in your tenderness, in your rawness, in your becoming, right? It means letting people witness your truth, your heartbreak, your process, your triumph. It is not easy to tell the world, I've been through a divorce, or something I once built with pride ended. I hid my divorce for a long time. I hid the demise of my marriage. The end of my marriage was chaotic and painful, and I didn't want anybody to know this. I was ashamed. I felt like a failure. So I went through one of the most painful transitions of my life in silence, alone. And that silence was learned behavior. I learned that silence, that hiding, because that's what I saw growing up, right? I watched painful things unfold, but once we stepped out of the door, we smiled. We kept moving. We didn't let the world see us. Vulnerability was never an option, right? But here's what I know now. This is what I know to be true. Connection, real connection lives inside vulnerability. We heal when we let people see not just our highlight reels, but our hurting parts. And that's the difference between spotlight and soul. I don't need to be seen to be praised, right? I don't need to be seen to be successful. I choose to be seen so that someone else knows they're not alone, so that someone else can use my pain as a pathway to their own healing. Because being seen isn't about being loud. It's about being true. It's about connection. And baby, let me tell you, the healing that happens when someone finally sees you, it is remarkable. I remember hearing somewhere, and it could have been in a book or maybe in passing, but the words landed, like I felt the words. And it was, to be seen is to be loved. And those words, Jesus, they echoed through me, because truly being seen, being understood and accepted as you are, where you are, is one of the most beautiful forms of love I have ever known. Even when you no longer need validation to move forward, even when you have found your own inner anchoring, there is still something sacred about being seen fully. It's like letting someone hear, the mind chatter inside your head, the doubts, the spirals, the quiet chaos, like the constant going, and having them say, I see you and I love you anyway. That is beauty. That is freedom. Being seen isn't about being loud. It's about being true. So I'm going to ask you, where in your life are you hiding something sacred? What are you keeping tucked away that could bloom? Something that could be a bridge to your community, your people, your healing. What version of you hasn't stepped forward yet? What is it that you're holding back from your family, from your children, from your partner, or even from yourself? And what fear is tied to that hiding? Is it that you're afraid of rejection? You're worried about judgment, about failure, about loss? And what would change if you let just one person witness the real you? And if you feel safe enough, I challenge you, or I just invite you to journal, or feel free to reach out to me. My messages are always open because hiding was once a survival skill. But now you're allowed to unlearn that. There is safety in being seen, and you don't have to prove anything to deserve love or peace or joy. You don't have to shrink to fit someone else's comfort. And I've said this in every episode, and I will say it again here. You are inherently worthy. You don't have to be perfect to be visible. You don't have to be polished to be powerful. You deserve to be seen simply because you are real. And real women in their layers are where healing begins. So I invite you to read Held by Darkness, Embraced by Light, if you haven't already. It is available on Amazon now, and I am working hard to get it into wider distribution. I want this baby everywhere just because I want it to connect with as many women as possible. And I invite you to share this episode with someone who's learning to be visible. And if you're a woman with a story to tell, a moment of truth, a purpose, a movement, this season of Honey to You, this is for you. I want to talk to women who are choosing to be seen, not just for what they've survived, but for the beauty, the brilliance, and the power that they carry. So yes, baby, I'm back, y'all. And this next season, it is going to be a beautiful ride. And remember, you are inherently worthy. I love you. I'll see you soon. Bye.